talking about something that I think is super key for all of us to really learn and understand in any facet of life, in any area. It's listening.
I'm here to introduce you guys to the fact that listening is not a passive thing.
One of the best ways I believe that we can make someone feel special and important is to listen to them.
Lit number one. Ask someone to repeat if you didn't hear. I thought that was a gem right there.
When you are listening to somebody, ask them before you respond in any other way, are you hoping to vent right now, or are you hoping to problem solve?
What is active listening?
Active listening is two things. It's managing the external things, your body language, your eye contact, etc., and the internal piece is just filtering out, recognizing that the human condition involves all of these questionings and judgments.
Even though I am listening and taking in and allowing that person to vent or get out what they need to say, I feel like there's still a limit to like how much I'm listening and taking in things.
Listening is a choice.
Listening is a choice.
Welcome to the good life.
We're here. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Good Life Visual Audio Podcast. I got Stu here. Say what's up, Stu.
What's up, y'all?
Kabiz's in the building.
What up, doe?
He's here. And I'm Chris, as always. Guys, welcome back to another episode. We're diving into how to design your life with extraordinary health, wealth, and mindset. Again, find us everywhere you listen or watch podcasts. Press that like, that thumbs up button, all those things, because we want this message to be shared with everybody. So we got another good one for you today. It is Stu talking about something that I think is super key for all of us to really learn and understand in any facet of life, in any area. It's listening. Our listening ability. What'd you say? What was that? Anyway, Stu, on you, man. Let's talk listening.
All right. So first thing today, the whole intention of today is to have everybody walk away with a better idea of how to listen. We are here to improve your listening. Now, a lot of people may not think that their listening is an issue. I can tell you, I didn't think mine was for a long time. Definitely found out the hard way. It affects your relationships. It affects, your personal, your romantic, your business, your career trajectory. It literally affects every single component of your life. And I would say the most important one is it affects your relationship with yourself. How well can you actually listen to others and recognize that other people out there are mirror reflections of you? We all have our differences, but there's so much to be learned. We see so much of them in ourselves. One quick line that I want to really introduce everybody with is the simple concept of the way someone reacts to you is such a bigger expression of what's going on in their life than what's going on in yours. Now, why is this important for listening? Because when you listen to someone, it's not just about hearing. It's not just about noticing, okay, cool, their mouth is moving, they're making noise, I'm hearing them. It is way more specific than that. It is about a true effort to understand somebody. That's important to you. So a lot of people out there have heard the old thing, like between a couple, where it's, did you hear me, honey? Were you actually listening to me? And yeah. And it's a very like nonchalant. Yeah, well, that happens all the time. So I'm here to introduce you guys to the fact that listening is not a passive thing. You're not just sitting back, kicking it, just letting the other person talk. You are actively, if you want to truly listen to somebody and understand them, you are actively observing their tone, their word choice, their body language, their emotion. You're putting yourself in your shoes, and we're going to break all that down tonight. So for anybody out there that's been struggling with this or wants to get infinitely better at managing people, at communicating with your partner, at getting what you want in life, listening is key. So I'll break it down. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to start by explaining why listening is so important. We're going to introduce you to the concept of active listening. We're going to show you what's stopping you from listening. And finally, we're going to show you how to improve your listening, what you can actually do after this call. So first, why is listening important? When we first hear about this, I've already alluded to how this affects predominantly the idea of romantic relationships in our lives, but it's everything else. It really is. Anybody you know, if you're trying to get to know them, it is massive, because if you cannot understand and connect with someone on an intellectual, mental, spiritual level, how are you going to be able to grow? How are you going to be able to show love and be loved by that person? How can you come together in an efficient way where you both get what you want? This is key for listening. All right, so I've already mentioned listening is an action. It is not passive. So what exactly is active listening? Active listening means being deeply engaged in and attentive to what the speaker is saying. You are really trying to the best of your ability to understand them, not just hear what they had to say, not just give them time to talk and then reply. You are simply trying to listen, observe their thoughts, understand where they're coming from, and either help that person or give them a chance to vent, knowing that you've done everything you can to connect with them. Well, a lot of things can actually get in the way of active listening. I think some of the most obvious things are distractions, very surface level. You know, you got your phone in your hand, there's a TV on in the background, there's a million things going on in your head, because maybe meditation and silencing your thoughts or journaling are not a part of your day-to-day basis, which I would highly recommend if you want to get better with listening. As Jordan Peterson puts it, if you want to learn to be able to to think clearly, practice reading and writing. And that way it allows you to verbalize and truly understand the meanings of why people choose certain words. Just the other day, I had somebody continuously tell me that they understood me, but they failed to grasp the difference, the nuance in a couple of different words. And we've had great conversations, and I'm actually encouraging that person to look into listening and to go further into this. So this is very important work. Everything that gets in the way of active listening, whether it's the phone, the regular distractions, I call these things just blockers. There's something blocking you from connecting with the person around you. Those are external distractions. But there's also a lot going on internally that you may not be aware of that could be affecting the way you connect with and listen to those that are important to you. This internal stuff comes from the fact that we did not evolve with the idea of having such a stable, secure world to grow up in. We evolved through the process of fight or flight and survival mode. We were constantly wondering, where am I going to get my next meal? How am I going to survive the night? What's my food, my water, my shelter? Another one that's so important is we're constantly being worried that we're going to get kicked out of the tribe. We're going to be kicked out on our own, going to have to defend for ourselves, be abandoned. So we have naturally developed all of these things that internally go on when someone else is talking to us that actually get in the way of us listening to them. Let me explain. Give you some examples. You might notice that when someone's listening to you, you're probably already thinking, is this person right or wrong? You might even be thinking right now, who's this guy talking to me about listening? Do I agree or disagree? Who is this guy? Like, just making all kinds of things. But are you actually attempting to understand what I've got going on? Another thing that comes up, have I experienced this or not? Is this a popular opinion for them to be saying? Is this mainstream? How should I be viewing this person's opinion? Should this be wrong? Is this right or wrong? And then finally, you might be formulating a response while someone is still talking to you. Now, if you're in a high stakes debate, maybe that's important. But if you're trying to connect with somebody at home, at work, if you're trying to work with business partners to make sure everything you get is actually achievable, man, you've got to be able to identify these internal processes and root them out. Blockers that happen while you respond to them after they're, said their 2 cents. Providing unsolicited advice. Someone shares or opens up. One of the worst things you can do is just come in there and provide unsolicited advice. It will totally put a damper on someone wanting to come back to you again. Ask them. Multitasking while you respond. Obviously, if you're on the phone and you're doing something else, or you're at work, you're not really giving someone the power, like the priority. And that really can affect if someone wants to communicate with you and connect with you again. Verbalizing judgment towards that person. We all judge. It's just a question of how good we are at rationalizing through that and remembering that we don't know everything. But those are some of the things that block you while someone else is talking and when you respond. So here's what you do to improve your listening. 1, silence your mind and your judgment. When you catch your mind drifting away, truly experiencing what the other person is saying, understanding it, listening to them, paying attention to the word choice, the tone, the body language, all of that. When you catch yourself distracted, thinking about what you got to do later on, calmly bring yourself back. If you need to, just a reminder, it's totally okay to ask somebody to repeat something. They are going to be excited because they're like, oh man, this guy is actually trying to listen to me, so much so that if he got lost or had a question, he's asking me about it. Great. So silence your mind and your judgment. By the way, meditation and journaling helps a lot for this. 2, you can reframe what they said in your own words to ensure that you understood them correctly. 3, note nonverbal cues, like I said earlier, body language, tone, emotion. And 4, visualize. The most powerful thing on the planet is your imagination. Visualize what they are describing to you from their eyes based on their experiences and knowledge. Paint a picture in your mind. It will allow you to remember it. It will allow you to empathize with them and truly connect with them at a deeper level than you have in the past. Visualization is probably the most important one here. Finally, my personal experience on this. I have been classified as ADD or ADHD by a lot of my friends. Call it whatever you want. I don't really care. My mind just simply activates. If left unchecked, my mind will bounce all over the place. I could be talking to somebody about one thing, and next thing you know, I'm thinking about this crazy sci-fi thing, or just this client that I'm working with. Who knows? So when I recognize this, I've spent a lot of time working on it to where I bring myself right back. It's why I'm able to listen to people and speak with them and engage and help them connect and grow, because I've worked on my listening. Finally, I would say at this point, opinions, judgments, my beliefs being triumphant over others, or me being right and them being wrong is such a silent thing now, to where it's almost non-existent. I am still human. But if you ever experience any of these blocks of, oh my gosh, like I must be right, or if you're hearing, but you're not actually listening to me, please take a moment, go back through this, digest this video, and feel free to reach out to me. So the very last thing I want to say here is a tip that has been exchanged with a couple friends of mine. When you are listening to somebody, ask them before you respond in any other way, are you hoping to vent right now, or are you hoping to problem solve? And we've got a phone that's going off in the background, by the way, vibration. It's coming through pretty loud. Cool. Well, fellas, that's what I got. Curious, what questions do you have for me?
There's a bunch there, man. And again, I love the topic because I've taken such pride in listening and being a good listener, and that being the way I get to know people. Everybody wants to feel special and important to a degree. And one of the best ways I believe that we can make someone feel special and important is to listen to them. And I want you to dive deeper into, though, what is active listening? That's saying, I've heard, I believe I practice it, but there's probably somebody listening to the podcast right now that might not understand what like active listening really is. Break that down a bit, Steve.
For sure, man. I really appreciate the question. So there's a couple. When someone says the word active listening, there's all different types of definitions. I kind of look at it as two trains of thought. One, active listening is an external thing. Two, it's well, I don't know what number I just threw up there, but two is an internal thing that's going on that is completely unknown to the people around you, and except when they see you change as you progress with this. The first one, external. Eye contact, body language, like just being engaging. You know, we've kind of mentioned on here, sometimes we get so interested in listening to one another that, you know, we might just sit here and just like straight up stare. You know, just remember that you can actually take a moment to smile, nod, reframe, like ask some questions that are open-ended, or just like, use your body and your facial expressions, or something to let somebody know that, man, I'm still with you. I'm here for you. Like I want to connect with you in this way. Those are a lot of the external things, and it includes not multitasking while somebody's talking to you. Internally, all of those questions, those judgments, we literally spend all this time processing and filtering out what somebody is saying to us, when in reality, we're not actually listening to them anymore. We're too busy concerned about whether or not I agree with them or not, whether or not their opinion's right, whether or not I've seen this before. Is this credible? Who is this person? We have all these things happening, and there is a time and place for those questions. But you have to at least stop and be aware that this is happening. If you are not aware that you are doing this, how can you ever get out of the habit of listening to respond, where you're like, you know what? No, I'm sorry. That's not it. Here's what's actually going on. You have literally taken a moment where someone has energetically reached out to you and you cut it off. So active listening is two things. It's managing the external things, your body language, your eye contact, etc. And the internal piece is just filtering out, recognizing that the human condition involves all of these questionings and judgments, because we're afraid of being kicked out of the tribe. We don't want to have social conflict. We want to get along with the majority. Recognize these things and begin to put yourself in the other person's shoes, and that is the active nature of it. You're doing something while they speak.
Hey, Stu, appreciate you breaking that down. Chris, I didn't know if you have a follow-up on that.
No, that was it. That was perfect.
Okay, cool. Appreciate it. That was kind of my first question as well. So appreciate you breaking that down. Hey, I got a couple big major takeaways. I don't know if I drop it right here, or we save it to the end. But you know
Drop
what?
it.
My
Drop
sponge,
it.
my
Drop it.
sponge is full. We're dropping it
like it's hot.
Number one. Right, you guys see Stephen A's top 10 list. List number one. Ask someone to repeat if you didn't hear. I thought that was a gem right there. And it's something that was kind of like, I don't want them to know that I wasn't listening. But on the other side of it, it makes so much sense, because it's like, I would rather you ask me if you didn't hear what I said than pretend like you did. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
What I just said.
Uh-huh.
What I just said.
What happened was, no. And then number two, it's a reframe in your own words. Right. So not just parroting back exactly what was said, but like reconstructing it. Right. As a former teacher, is a killer thing. Right. No, Jack. Don't copy the exact thing in the book. Tell me back in your own words so I know you understood. So I appreciated that one. Reframing your own words. Number three, visualize. This is one I hadn't really thought about. Visualize. And this one, I would love for you to go on this a little bit, because is this one? This is one that I'm afraid will take me away from the conversation if I start visualizing a little too much. My imagination could be pretty vivid. All of a sudden, we're on planet Neptune and we're having lunch with some aliens, and you did this, that, and the third. And I'm like, ooh, what are they eating? Right?
I want to be a part of that conversation.
Yeah. So that's number three. Number four, ask them what type of response they want. This right here changed so many relationships for me, because I'm a problem solver. Yep. You come to me with something, my mind is like, okay, cool. This is what you do, right? It's like, no, bro, no. I just want you to listen to what I have to say. It's like, well, what does that mean? If you don't want to solve it, why are you telling me? So number five, it's that, and I love this one too. It's like just bringing awareness to the act of listening is going to improve our ability, our skill, the skill of listening over time. So I appreciated that one as well. So thank you for that. And my question, and if you want to elaborate on any of those, go for it. But my question directly was, is there a right way to listen? Like for somebody who's like, really like, I want to do it right. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Right. It's like, is there a right way? Or is it like, if it was effective, it worked. Like, kind of like sex. If you had a baby, it worked. You know what I mean? So, I know that's all my knowledge is today before we get canceled.
You still could be doing it wrong and have a baby. Just so
I know.
everyone knows.
I know. Thank you for taking that right out of my mouth. That's beautiful. All right, so I definitely want to respond on the visualization note because that was a great question that you came up with. But while we're on it, the specific piece of, is there a right way to listen? And just like I'll say about almost everything else in life, there is no right or wrong way. There is and the irony is it's such a normal thing when someone says something to determine, is this right or wrong? And in a way, we've almost stepped into this. It's a supernatural thing that we do. Totally normal. In this moment, when it comes to listening, I would say if you are trying to assess whether or not you are listening correctly or incorrectly, try and gauge how you're listening now compared to how you listen to people in general and the particular person in front of you in the past. Do you feel like you are connecting and understanding and potentially retaining more information when they speak to you? So I like to look at this as how am I doing over time? Am I going in a direction that I want to be in? Or am I in a moment where I could be doing more? When it comes to listening, I think if I were to say anything about right or wrong, if you want to be connecting and understanding somebody, I think the right procedure to go about is actively doing what you can to understand them. And that is removing distractions. That is, the external things as well as being aware of the internal things that may be getting in the way. Did that answer your question?
See.
Those are all good things. Could be like I didn't think about those in that manner of what I got. But the one thing that I did learn, or that by the way, did you answer that whole question, Stu? Because there were some other things there.
The visualization.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. I must not have been listening.
Clearly, see, you get lost, man. You get lost.
And that's the beautiful thing is being able to own up to it. I thought that was such a great point. Is at first it's like terrifying, like I'm supposed to tell this person and I just spaced out. Oh God. But people love it when you own it. Ownership, baby. Here we are again. Love this theme. So I think that's beautiful. But when it comes to the visualization piece, yes, you can take it too far. If your visualization process is going off to where all of a sudden you come back and multiple sentences have gone by and you said once or twice, like, hey, could you repeat that? Hey, could you repeat that? Hey, could you repeat that? Because you've been spending so much time visualizing what they're talking about, maybe dial it back a little bit. How can we take a 10 out of 10 of trying to visualize what somebody's saying to the detail, to the expression on people's face? How can we dial it back to just, okay, that's how this might have felt in the moment, or that's what they might have seen, or, just find a place where you're able to quickly balance. And one thing I'll often do is I'll ask for permission, like, hey, do you mind if you just either slow down or just give me a second to process what you said? Asking for permission is huge. That gives you a moment to sit there and be like, oh, damn, that must have been crazy what they went through. And it gives you a moment. And then they're sitting there like, wow, this guy is literally thinking about and trying to experience and understand and connect to what I'm talking about. That's a beautiful moment. So I think that there is absolutely a way to take it too far and get yourself lost from what they're saying. So asking for permission, maybe just having a moment or two. And I think it's one of those things like you and I have discussed with meditation, where you practice it so much, all of a sudden you notice that you do it throughout the day. It begins to flow. And it may not be a thing after a while to think about visualizing. It just comes up when it's appropriate.
That was really good, man. That was really good. I just want you to know that I was listening and I really connected right there.
Dope.
Chris is like, these dudes, man.
What am I gonna do with y'all? What is this? Well, here, let me go on a little. It's not a tangent, but let me give some context. I learned a lot of this listening stuff in marriage, specifically. Those people that don't know, right? Married, going on 11 years. July makes 11 years married, right? So, I learned a lot of this communication, listening stuff just by learning my wife. That one question of the right, is this venting? Or do you need me to listen? Or would you like me to solve some things? Are you looking for solutions? I learned that probably 4 years ago.
How long you been married?
Going on 11 years. I've been with my wife, been with her for 13, almost 14 years. Just learned that probably about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago at the max. Because I'm like you, Kabi, I'm a problem solver. It's what I do in business naturally. And so I would bring it home a bunch. And I had to learn that there are plenty of times that I just need to sit and listen and not to give any type of response or what I would do or feedback or those things. And I've learned that specifically in marriage. In business, on the other side of things, I would be quick. I took those same listening skills. I tried to apply it to business, but where I ran into challenges in business and actually in home too, is when it's the same story. When I'm listening and it's like, I've heard this before. I know exactly where this is going. Like I hear it. So how many times do I have to keep hearing this? You're laughing, but you know.
I know exactly what you mean, bro.
So like I stop actively listening and I jump in, and I still struggle with this sometimes to this day, but I've gotten so much better at just understanding that even though I am listening and taking in and allowing that person to vent or get out what they need to say, I feel like there's still a limit to like how much I'm listening and taking in things. Give me your thoughts on what I just said. Like, is this something you see a bunch? Is this something people struggle with naturally? Like, how does, I don't know. What should I be thinking about if I've listened to this story before or I've heard it before? When does it like, all right, I'm not going to listen to this? Like,
that's Stu. I'm gonna let you finish. But let me jump in real quick.
Dude, I was gonna say I want the other married guy to chime in on this one
because this is hilarious. It's just like, listen, for all my single men out there, if you have not learned this, just learn it now. Just do it now. If you are a problem solver, all right, and you like, okay, let's get to it. I see it. 2 + 2, 4, right? Don't do that. See, they want you to show your work. It doesn't matter if it was easy mental math. They want you to show your work, right? Mm-hmm. And if you were that way, one other thing that's helped me is, I'm a very tactical individual. So this is it. I'll like, okay, I see where this is going. Let's sit down. Let me give you a foot rub. And I can focus on the foot rub. All right, I focus on what's going on over there, or I'm gonna or let me get some push-ups in, something physical. Let me get me going somewhere so that it's just yep, and I'm doing something else so that it helps get through. Because it's the same story, man. It's the same. Wait, you told this last night. This is not a good movie.
And it forces them to think, or I've been told that causes me to be I'm a bad listener in that sense. It's like, no, I just heard this.
Just a terrible story.
Yeah. Horrible story on repeat.
For sure. And you just touched on such a pivotal point. Like that moment has somebody accuse you or potentially label you in a moment of you're a bad listener. And I think what's so important here is you can be a great listener and decide in a moment that you just don't want to listen to somebody. Like sometimes I don't want to listen to some crazy person at a bar, or I don't want to listen to what this homeless person is saying to me right now because this is wildly chaotic energy that's right in my face. Like, whatever the case may be, maybe it's a certain politician or an influencer that you just don't want to listen to. You just want to move on. Like,
so are you saying listening is a choice?
Listening is a choice. And I think every person owes it to themselves to learn how to listen to the best of their ability. So when they really want or need to, they can implement it. But you're not tied to that. I'm not sitting here saying that everybody has to be active listening all the time. I'm saying it may be beneficial for you to have the life you want, to get to the good life. What's up?
There you go.
by learning how to listen to the best of your ability. And when someone in a moment labels you as a bad listener, reflect on that. Do you typically get called a bad listener? How often are you actively listening? Like, just kind of use that as an invitation to explore your experiences with this.
I think that's great, man. And I would add or to that as well, like I was saying, kind of like environmental things, right? Are you often in certain circumstances where is it like right after work where you're like, I can't do this right now, right? Or is it setting up your environment correctly so that you can be at your best or close to it to be to put those strong listening, active listening skills into work, right? Because there's just certain times that I don't care how good of a listener you could be, Oprah, right? It's certain times that this is not the time. This is not the time, right? Don't catch me right after I wake up. Don't catch me right before I'm going to bed, right? And you trying to talk about all the issues we should have talked about when it was daytime, right? Don't listen. This is somebody else's story, not mine. If don't don't catch me mid argument trying to bring up old stuff 2, 5, 6, 8 years ago. Come on now. But when those, I think shifting, physical environment, mental environment, and emotional environment is very helpful because when those things align, I feel like a lot of people can be really great listeners, right? When those things are aligned and you know how. But if you're in a bad space physically, maybe you're in pain, right? How great of a listener can you be if your big toe hurts? Listen, I would love to listen to you right now, but my big toe really hurts. Like I got to go do something.
Beautiful example. Beautiful example. Because you can't always be ready. Yeah. You're absolutely right. So what do? You just say, this is not a good time. But I think people get into trouble when they don't get in the habit of saying if it's a good time or not. Now, you can definitely say it's not a good time all of the time, and that's going to get you in trouble for a different reason. But if you just simply verbalize where you're at and why you may not be able to hold that space for them, hey, my big toe fucking hurts. What do you want from me? Maybe don't phrase it like that.
That may work. That may work on the good life. I don't know if it's going to work at home.
Yeah.
But being
read the room.
What I'm hearing, being authentic about, and if you practice that enough, I think eventually people pick it up. They're like, you know what? He would typically listen if he could, but this is clearly not a good time for him. And then maybe set up a nice time. Hey, let me go take care of this, get in a better headspace, and then let's revisit this conversation in like 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, or maybe never, right? Whenever it may be.
Or maybe never. It's never been never again. How about that? That's funny. Hey, just kind of tangent on this. Another thing that you had said, Stu, that really resonated was that listening to understand. See, you said something about sometimes we're like formulating the response, right, in our brain, and that takes us away. That was one of the distractions. And again, another thing I've had to learn in marriage, specifically in marriage, I've had to learn. We literally, so we did some marriage counseling a while back, and a counselor gave us this tool of repeating what the person said after they said it, right? So my turn to speak.
Mirroring.
Okay, there. Yeah, so mirroring it. So it's, I would say something, this is how I'm feeling, this, when this happened, this is how I felt, and this is da-da-da-da. And then my wife would have to give it right back to me. So what I heard you say was, this hurt you because of blah, 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 blah. Is that right? And I'll say, yeah, you got it. That's right. And then she goes into her point. So it literally just allows us to make sure that the other person is really listening and understanding what it is that we're trying to communicate. And that tool, even though we don't practice it all the time, it's in our tool belt, right? That we know that if we're at a place where it's just not seeming to get through, we pull that out. It's like, listen, all right, let's do this mirroring activity now that, we can do that. This is what I'm feeling. Did you hear what I said? Can you repeat that back to me? Get them to repeat it back. They understand it. A lot of times that's where the miscommunication comes in, because they didn't hear exactly what I said, or I didn't hear exactly what she said, right? Like that's normally what happens, and we can catch it in that moment. So that's a helpful activity that we've kind of used in our tool belt. Anything like that? I mean, you brought up mirroring, so I'm sure that's something that you think helps people too.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, there's a subtle difference between reframing and mirroring.
Okay.
Mirroring is when like it's the exact same image, the exact same word choice. We're not really, you could potentially deal with the tone or the emotion a little bit, but for the most part, it's the exact same word choice. What I like, and honestly, mirroring works extremely well for especially for those that are like, I guess it's a great like fundamental tool. What I like more and what I think is more powerful is reframing, where what you say, I say it back in my own words, just like Kabi was mentioning earlier. It's not just regurgitation of what's on the blackboard. It's okay, if I see this math problem, I can redo this math problem in any number of ways and it still means the same thing. It's still the same process. So if you see a certain set of words come from someone and you reframe it into your own words that maybe make more sense to you, now you can both begin to understand whether or not you have the same definitions or uses of a word. One of the things I've really enjoyed about spending more time with Kabi recently is you have a way of pausing and saying, what do you mean by that? Can you define what you mean by that word specifically? Because we're using the same word, we're mirroring the same sentences, but it feels like we mean very different things and we're not on the same page. So getting specific on those definitions can be really big, and that's something that mirroring doesn't always do. But if you start by just mirroring, just keep like 101. I feel like the 202 is the reframe. It's a direct translation, but mirroring is really great for when like tensions are high and you're going through that exercise that forces you to slow down and hold on to each word and repeat it back to them. So I think they're both powerful tools for sure. That's really cool that you guys have been through that. I actually saw a show where these individuals went through that type of thing in marriage counseling and they totally talked shit about it. And I was a little bit upset because it kind of had like a little like programming vibe in the sense that this isn't a good way to do it. It is a very powerful fundamental without a doubt.
Is the show Love is Blind? No, all right. We don't have to talk about it. We'll just move on.
It's not. That might not be a show I end up watching. Although I will say I ended up at a show like where somebody was in Below Deck. I don't know if you guys have heard of that.
Oh yeah.
So somebody was on that, and I was at their house the other day, and we're South Florida, yacht capital. So that was pretty cool. That's my closest thing I could ever say.
Wait, you were on? Your friend was on Below Deck?
Wait,
friend of a friend. Yeah,
okay.
Chris, I love you so much, man. I do. Yeah, always in the zone. So I would say Love is Blind and Below Deck are two like super popular shows right now.
Yeah,
and
my wife watches both of those, and I watch by osmosis.
I'm not familiar.
Sometimes it's not bad. All right, I had a quick contribution here to make. May not be so quick, but I think it's fairly important. So we've been talking about active listening in the realm of relationships quite a bit, and I think it's extremely important to kind of shift a little bit. In the realm of business is also extremely important, right? From the background of sales. Now, some people think about sales like this dirty thing that people do, a used car salesman. You could take it home right now. I'll knock off another $20,000 for you to take this car home. Right? But there's a lot of things that need to be sold. And if they're done well, it can be a really helpful and fulfilling process for both parties involved. I was reading this book, and I forget the name of it, but it's written by the Wolf of Wall Street. And he, in one chapter, he goes directly into, and I'll find the name of it for you guys here in a bit. It'll be my book recommendation of the day. Ha, 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 ha. Kabi's book recommendation of the day.
New soundbite.
Clip it up.
Yeah, but he was talking about kind of like the pyramid, right? And the bottom of that pyramid of like really good sales, but also to me, it just clicked like good active listening is first and foremost is body language. And he was saying like that's about like 40%. Like 40%, it's like body language, right? So if I'm saying something, you can, and it's so easy. That's why we love video. and video communicates so well because it's so easy to tell when we're having a good day, a bad day, or a productive day. It's so easy to tell. That's all. Like we tap into that so quickly on video, and also just obviously more in person. In fact, we could tap into the aura of the person before we even see their body language. Like people who don't have eyesight can tap into this stuff. Like something is wrong here. Like before you even speak, and they can't see you. Right. So I think that's really incredible as well. And then next, he said another 40% is tone. Right. It's tone. So I might be exhibiting great body language, but if I change my tone up a little bit, like things kind of get a little different. It can get pretty serious pretty quickly, or it can get freaking silly real quick. Right. And I thought it was so dope because it was an audiobook and I could hear it of him doing it. And I was like, oh yeah, that's something that a lot of us do naturally without even like thinking about it. But if you can harness and bring your awareness to it, you can utilize it in business, and not in a terrible way, but in a way to really connect with the client and connect with the person. And then he said, and that's 40% of it. And 20% or even less, depending on how you look at it, is the word choice. It's the word choice. And it's like, it's not that the word choice isn't important. It's that if you get that 80%, Pareto's principle, 80-20, if you get that 80% body language and tone, that word choice is you need it. You're not going to, as soon as you open, if your body language and your tone, whether you're humming or not, whatever it is great, but you use terrible words, somebody right off the bat can tell you don't know what you're talking about, right? Or but I will say I've definitely used body language and tone to get across and not knowing what I was talking about several times. But so it shows just how important that is. But I wanted to introduce that into the conversation and see you guys had any thoughts on that and anything to add to that for the good folks at home in the business world.
Man, I think you've nailed it. Like when it comes to the business side of things, how are you supposed to help your clients if you can't understand them? How are you supposed to get a client if you can't understand someone's needs? I love that the word choice is 20% because quite honestly, like you can sense so much about the intensity, the emotion, just the vibe, like whatever word you want to put. Aura, I thought was awesome. You can sense so much of what you're going through or what someone's going through. And in a business perspective, you can meet them there. I had a great session yesterday with a PA who's trying to navigate some different things. And one of the things we talked about is it's very common that she has to read the room, identify the patient, the family members, identify the emotion that they're at, and meet them in an appropriate way for where they are. You also have to do it when your boss is pissed. We've all done that before, whether you knew it or not. You were listening. You were paying attention to the tone, to the aura. And I'm really grateful that you broke it down like that because it reminds me of something you always say. Like I'm so used to thinking at like the 202 and 303 on listening that I often forget to actually go into and explain like tone, like what does tone mean? But honestly, bro, thank you for bringing that up because in business, it's so important and not just for the sales and for the customers and connection there, but because you have people that work with you and work for you or work above you, you've got to be able to communicate effectively with them if you want to be able to delegate tasks.
Absolutely. That's huge. And yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because I think listening is a superpower for me in business, even though I talk about like getting frustrated and not learning, right? That side of things, but it is my superpower in business. I had a few appointments earlier today, and one of the appointments that I had, the person I happened to be training in business also was listening in. And that was one of the things that she picked up, is she was like, man, I was really just paying attention to their body language, yours, your tonality, their tonality. That's all I was really paying attention to. And I could see how you were kind of mirroring and matching where they were to pull them along, to like bring them down this journey. And that's what's needed in a business sense, in a sales side of things. Sales is influence. I'm sure it said that in that book for Wolf of Wall Street, right? He talks about this a bunch. Sales is influence, your ability to influence another person for their good. Where we get the dirty term in sales is because people are influencing people to do things that aren't good or aren't in their best interest. right, or aren't for them. But that's where Kabi is saying, like, if you know how to do this properly, it's a very beautiful process. Things need to be sold. You need to influence someone for their good, right? Especially what we all do, sitting here in your health, in your mindset, in your finances. These are the things that are good for you. So we have to influence you that these things are good. How do we influence people? And like, again, using that word influence over sales, we have to listen to understand what actually would bring that person value. We actually have to listen to connect to understand what their actual need is. And that's how we then learn how to influence. So being a great listener, and yes, picking up those things. I've heard those ratios differently than the 40-40-20. And I've heard it in the sense of, and I think I got this from Stu's favorite guy, Tony Robbins. If you don't know, Stu is a huge fan of Tony Robbins. So I recommend everyone just send them some Tony Robbins gear or something.
Oh, you're going to get me in such trouble. So for the record, there are things that I like what Tony does, and there are things that I don't like. And that may not be the most popular opinion for someone in my shoes, but hey, we all learn. Yeah, we all learn from those who have been in the game longer than us.
Backstory, when Stu and I were first like having some conversations, I brought up some Tony Robbins stuff, and he was like, I don't really like that guy. You know, there's some things that rub me the wrong way about that guy. So I always
I know. And what's interesting is, like, the more I've exposed myself to him, the more I'm like, okay, this guy definitely gets it. But there are ways about, you know what? We're not going to go there right now.
We're not. Let me finish.
It's the way he claps.
You never seen that? That's how he gets down.
Look it up on YouTube. You know exactly what I mean.
He gets people really hyped. And I think that's where I gotta say the last bit. That's where he and I are very different. I
clap differently.
I clap so fucking differently, bro.
Golf clap.
Hey, we're in Florida, right? No, so like for me, I don't want to just get people hype so they can be hype. I want to get them peaceful so they can learn how to be hype on their own. Me getting them hype, I can't be there all the time. I don't want you to be dependent on me to be hype. But you know what? That's all I got to say about that for now. Tune in for a future episode on what I think about the coaching community in general and what's working and what's not working.
Yeah, we might actually have to have that conversation.
I'm doing a live on it tomorrow.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so maybe I'll jump on with you. But either way, I heard Tony Robbins say similarly, and I'm just guessing, I think it was him, that that's how we connect, how we build rapport. That's how I learned that, right? And that the perfect words are only like 9%. These were the ratios that he gave. It was like 9% are the words of what you're saying that actually helps us connect and build rapport. 73% is body language. I think 73% is body language, and that 20 extra percent, 30% or whatever that comes out to be is tonality, right? But a lot of it, the large majority of it is what did I say? Body language. Body language, yeah, body language, right? And so I believe that those are the three things, and whether it's a proportion of 73 or 44, it doesn't matter. The point is that it's not about just the words, it's about tonality, body language, all the other things that come into play. And that helps you listen. Also, if I can notice things about, this is what I was telling the trainee in the presentation, was that if I notice where that potential client starts zoning out or gets really low or like starts sulking, or they lean in and they're looking, I'm now aware of kind of what they're saying to me. They're saying when they lean in, this is interesting. I haven't seen this. I'm actually trying to pay attention to this. When they look into the side, when they're distracted, I know that this part might not be getting their attention. Maybe I speed past it a bit more. So their tonality, without them saying a word to me, their tonality helps me move my presentation in the way that I need to go to, again, pull them along with me, meet them where they are and pull them along. So I think it's an incredibly important thing for people to learn in business, especially if you're in the sales side of things, which every business sells. So you got to have somebody that's a good listener on your team.
Yeah. I love that, Chris. Thanks for clarifying a lot of that. And, those percentages could be very they could be very different, but the point is still the same. And I actually think I like your percentages better than what I remember. And I could be wrong, man, guys. You know, you gotta forgive me. But it makes sense because I know the bottom of the pyramid is body language. Obviously, that's larger than tonality, which is next, and also larger than words, which is next. And I like what you keep saying about meeting them where they are and then pulling them along. Now, I wanted to add this little tidbit to it. It's like, well, how do you meet them where they are and pull them along? And this actually also comes from Stu's superhero, Tony Robbins. And you know, you meet them, for example, body language, right? You meet them where they are and you pull them along with your actions, right? So, you know, you might come in, you might meet me where you're here, right? Let's address the body language here and I might meet you. I might start here, and then I might go open up here, and then open up here, and then open up here, and then all of a sudden I'm encouraging you to mirror me, right? So then I lift you, I move you with me, I meet you where you are, and I move you with me. Now let's think about tonality. Tonality, you know, I hear kind of where you are, and life is so tough, and it's just God, business is so hard, etc. It's so hard, or whatever. And I meet you there. Yeah, I get it. It's so hard. It's so yeah, but it could also be really good, right? I mean, it could be fantastic, though, right? All of a sudden, I'm changing your thoughts. Like, whoa, 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 what's going on? At first, it's confusion. When cold meets hot, it creates steam. It's confusion, but then it moves you along, right? And it changes and switches up your thoughts. And then obviously words are words like you're using, oh God, it's so terrible. Yeah, it could be so terrible, but it could also be really great and fantastic. Da, 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 da. And then you start changing your words, and you can force the other person to follow you by utilizing those three components as well. So I really like that from our good friend Tony, because he does great work. He does.
He's like our best friend.
I do believe he does, gentlemen.
Tony,
as I read between the lines while we're listening here.
Tony, we need you on the podcast. Tony, let's go.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Tony Robbins, step on down.
I love it.
And I think, I mentioned earlier how, people coach differently. There are things that you're going to resonate with, not resonate with of any industry. Different people are going to move differently. The three of us move differently, perhaps more similarities than a lot of others, but we have a lot of differences too. And there's no right or wrong way. So to tie this back, listening is the same way. You are going to move differently and dance differently because listening is an art. You're going to move differently and dance differently and listen differently with the different people in your life. You're not going to listen to your military dad the same way you might listen to a softer, gentler mother. It's a different thing. It's a different dance. You're meeting them at a different tone, aura, as you stated, just all of that. So I think it's really important for people to remember this, because why are these percentages so low for word choice? They're low because you learning and understanding the words is important. However, it's a different energetic dance with everybody around you. It's so much more about that. And you can learn if you focus not so much on the words all the time with listening. If you focus on the energetic dance and like, how do I show up and move with this person to where we can connect and resonate? You can apply that process to everyone, but everybody's word choice is going to be different. So you can't learn as much there and apply it to others. I wonder what area of listening, and feel free Instagram to pop in for the couple folks we have on there. I wonder what area of listening we may not have already covered. Is there anything that seems murky or confusing? And if you're seeing this and it doesn't get edited out, then I encourage you to hit us up. Hit me up. I do this for a living. I'm very proud of what I've been able to achieve, because the fact that I do it for a living and I take it so seriously, the energetic exchange between me showing up for somebody else, it has applied to everything else in my life. I literally think that listening has gotten me everywhere because I am extremely good. I have the default problem solver tendency. And once I learned, like these guys did, to ask for permission. Are you hoping to vent? Are you looking to problem solve? Asking for permission of when you can jump in with your advice or your ideas, etc., is all massive. And now that I think about it, Kabi, you mentioned something about showing your work. People don't just want the answer. And then we kind of alluded to how in a marriage, like, typically the masculine to the feminine does not just want the answer. They want to be shown the work. One, because they just want somebody to be there, somebody to hear their experience as they verbalize it and share it with you, because that quality time and that connection is important. They also want you to show the work because just like the teacher can't give you the answers on a test, you have to figure out how to solve your own problems. You have to become your own coach, which I know we all resonate with. When you just give somebody the answer and you cut them off in the middle of them trying to figure that out, you've taken it away from them. You've taken that learning opportunity away. You may mean it with the best of intentions. And I bet you that person knows. I bet you they know, okay, he's trying to problem solve. But sometimes the frustration rises when one person wants to vent and the other wants to problem solve.
Makes sense. Like I said, just learned this lesson 5 years ago. So it resonates with me. But man, just this entire conversation around listening, I just think is incredibly important. Your first point, Stu, that was why is listening important? I think if there's something that people should be able to take away from today, and then there's a bunch to be able to take away, but you should understand just how important this is to your life. And again, this is the good life. So we are talking about how you improve, how you get to that place of ultimate health, wealth, mindset, all those things. Listening is such a huge part of that. Listening, just having the skill. We touched on a couple of things. I don't know if we said this, Stu, and you could tell me if I'm right or wrong. Listening is a skill, right?
Absolutely.
Skill.
Yeah.
Right. So we've identified this time, like this podcast. Listening is a skill and it's a choice. It's a skill and it's a choice. That means you can actively get better at this. You can choose to say, I want to become a better listener because this will improve my life. This will improve the quality of my life. It'll improve the quality of my relationships, the quality of my business, quality, of any area that I'm looking to improve. If I'm a better listener, I become a better communicator. I connect better with people. All these benefits. So I really want that resonates with me. I know how impactful listening has been in my business and in my family life and in all the areas of my life. I know how it's shown up and how it's impacted. So that's the one takeaway I want everyone that's listening to be able to take away also, is just this is an incredibly important skill for you to learn and actively practice to help yourself get to the good life. So
I love it. And I've already kind of given some of my closing thoughts already, so you can go rewind and watch it back. But I have a closing story on listening I wanted to share with you guys, and it's about my lovely mother. And right now I have a great relationship with my mom, but a lot of people don't know is that hasn't always been the case. Where that really took a turn for the better is when I went off to college. And my mom told me this much later, but she made it a conscious effort to call me all the time, like almost every single day for just a few minutes and just to see how I'm doing. And oftentimes she'll just be on the phone and just hear me vent about all the things going on, or hear me vent about or ask me questions about classes, about what's up. And sometimes it's a quick 5-minute call. Sometimes it's an hour of her hearing me how I almost got in a fight with some dude and da 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 da. And I don't know how she kept on listening, but she did it over and over and over and over and over again. And by the time of 4 years of college was up, we were close as, I don't know, we were close as what? Close as thieves? I don't know. Close. We were close because my mother's not a thief. But that really, when I think back, I'm like, man, she really upped or utilized her listening to build a much closer relationship with me over time. And I always think back to that and try to apply it in some of my relationships, right? Because that consistent effort, that choice to call me all the time, just to listen to what I had to say, built trust, it built love, It built a communication. It it allowed me to see that there was open channel all the time, and that's really what took our relationship to the next level, regardless of the fact that I wasn't there physically with her all the time. She utilized the phone and just called to listen. So that's my closing story for you guys.
That's beautiful, brother. It really is. Chris, any closing comments before I wrap it up?
No, I gave mine. This is incredibly important. I appreciate you even talking about it, Stu.
For sure. Well, yeah, on my end, from the personal experience, like I used to be atrociously bad at listening. It used to push people away. I did not have very deep friendships, minus a very, very few quiet individuals that hung out with me, probably just because I like to make a lot of noise. And over time, like this, it just, if you feel like alone and disconnected from people around you, I implore you, for yourself and for their loved ones, work on your listening. It is a thing you can master. And to echo a bit of what Kabi said, it has saved the relationship between me and my parents, who are basically 2 generations apart from me. So communication styles are drastically different, but we didn't give up. And you can, just like we didn't give up on that, just like Kabi and his mom didn't give up, like you can continue to work on this stuff. Chris had his own example. We all determined that relationships and connections around us were a priority. If you want that to be a priority and you really mean that, focus on your listening. So what can you do? Establish why listening is important for you. Who comes to mind? What dreams of yours do you want to actually achieve? Hold on to that emotional value. Then understand the concept of active listening. Focus and reflect on what's happening in your narrative, either internally that's stopping you from listening because you're passing judgment or you're determining what's right or wrong. When it comes to the external, put the phone away. Just recognize that you can just be there for the person. And that's so much of it. It's just trying to be there and not multitask when someone is talking to you. Finally, learn what's stopping you, as I just mentioned, and you can improve this by going over some of the things we did today. It's a powerful topic. I'm happy to share it with you guys. Thank you both so much for the feedback. And I'll turn it over to the closing outro.
Hey, I love it, Stu. Thank you so much for such a powerful topic today. We all had some great stuff to share on top of that. Guys, that's it for us. If you guys like what you heard, subscribe and smash that thumbs up button. It's a thumbs up button.
Thumbs up. It ain't down.
We're running back. That's what we're going to do. That's it for us today, guys. If you like what you heard, subscribe and smash that thumbs up button. Tune in next time for another good one. And share with somebody who would love or hate this episode. Because all press is good press. And until next time, keep living the good life. And we'll see you. We out here, baby.
Later.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to the good life.